Commander Elena Rodriguez stood at the observation deck of the Orbital Defense Station Artemis, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display that had appeared without warning across every screen on Earth. The message was simple, yet its implications were staggering: your species stands at the edge of extinction. The void comes. You are not ready. The message had arrived 3 days ago, and in that time, humanity had discovered they weren't alone in facing this threat. Across the galaxy, countless civilizations had received similar warnings throughout their histories. Most had failed to heed them. Those that survived told tales of a cosmic horror that devoured worlds and left only silence in its wake. "Commander, the Galactic Council representatives have arrived," Lieutenant James Way announced, his usually steady voice betraying a hint of anxiety. Elena straightened her uniform and turned to face the latest delegation of alien dignitaries who had come to assess Earth's response to the warning. The aliens that entered were as diverse as they were impressive. The tall, crystalline Zarkax moved with geometric precision, while the amorphous Nexilians shifted through various colors as they processed their surroundings. Their leader, a Valerian named Ambassador Cthor, fixed all 4 of his eyes on Elena with an expression that might have been pity. "You understand why we're here, Commander Rodriguez," Cthor said, his translator converting the musical tones of his native language into crisp English. "Your species is young, barely spacefaring. The void approaches faster than expected, and your world lies directly in its path." Elena nodded, maintaining her composure even as she felt the weight of billions of lives on her shoulders. "We understand the threat, Ambassador. What we don't understand is why you're all so certain we can't face it." The Zarkax representative, Mathematical Overseer Valsha, stepped forward, her crystalline form refracting light across the room. "We have analyzed your technological capabilities. Your species has achieved much in a short time, but you lack the fundamental understanding of quantum temporal mechanics necessary to even comprehend the nature of the void, let alone resist it." Elena allowed herself a small smile. "Perhaps. But humanity has a long history of achieving the impossible through unconventional means. Dr. Nathan Patel and his team at the Quantum Dynamics Laboratory have already made significant progress in understanding the void's nature." The aliens exchanged glances that Elena had learned to interpret as skepticism. They hadn't yet discovered that Nathan's team had already done what their civilizations had deemed impossible. They had found a way to detect the void's approach through what Nathan called quantum echo mapping. "Commander," Cthor began diplomatically, "we appreciate your species' determination. But the void has consumed civilizations far more advanced than yours. The Arthesians had mastered dark energy manipulation. The Kaolat could bend spacetime itself. All fell before the void." Elena activated a holographic display of her own, showing the latest data from Nathan's team. The alien representatives fell silent as they studied the readings. "These cannot be accurate," Valsha declared, her crystalline form vibrating with agitation. "They are," Elena confirmed. "Dr. Patel's team discovered that conventional quantum detection methods fail because everyone's been looking at it wrong. We stopped trying to observe the void directly and instead focused on measuring the absence it leaves behind, the quantum echo, as we call it." Ambassador Cthor's color shifted to a deeper blue, a sign of deep thought among his species. "Even if these readings are accurate, detecting the void is not the same as surviving it. What do you hope to accomplish with this knowledge?" Elena's expression hardened with determination. "Hope is exactly what we accomplish, Ambassador. For the first time, we can see it coming. And if we can see it, we can fight it. Humanity has faced extinction-level threats before, from our own nuclear weapons to climate disaster. Each time, we've pulled back from the brink through innovation, cooperation, and sheer stubborn determination." The Nexilian representative rippled with what Elena had learned was their equivalent of laughter. "Your species' confidence would be admirable if it weren't so dangerous. You cannot fight the void with determination alone." "No," Elena agreed, "but we can fight it with determination and knowledge combined. That's why we've called this meeting. We don't just want to share our findings, we want to propose an alliance. Your species have centuries of accumulated knowledge about the void. We have a new way of detecting and potentially understanding it. Together, we might stand a chance. The alien representatives conferred among themselves, their discussion a cacophony of crystalline chimes, color shifts, and melodic tones. Finally, Ambassador Kthor turned back to Elena. Your proposal is unprecedented. No species has ever suggested a cooperative defense against the void. Most simply accept their fate or attempt to flee. Then perhaps it's time for an unprecedented solution, Elena replied. The void arrives in 6 months. We can spend that time arguing about whether humanity is ready, or we can work together to give all our species a fighting chance. As the aliens departed to consider Earth's proposal, Elena returned her gaze to the holographic warning that still floated above Earth. Humanity wasn't ready, they said. But readiness, she had learned, wasn't always about having the right tools or knowledge. Sometimes it was about having the courage to try the impossible. Dr. Nathan Patel's voice came through her comm unit. Commander, we've detected something new in the quantum echo patterns. You need to see this immediately. Elena smiled grimly. Humanity's real test was just beginning. The quantum dynamics laboratory buzzed with an energy that bordered on chaos. Dr. Nathan Patel stood before a massive holographic display, his usually neat appearance disheveled after 48 hours of non-stop work. The quantum echo patterns he detected had led to something unprecedented, the discovery of an ancient artificial structure hidden in the space between dimensions. It's definitely artificial, Nathan explained to Commander Rodriguez and the assembled alien representatives. The quantum signature is too precise to be natural. Someone built this, and from what we can tell, they built it to fight the void. The Zarkak's mathematical overseer Valsha moved closer to the display, her crystalline form emanating frequencies of disbelief. This is impossible. The structure you found matches the descriptions of the Nexus Gate, a theoretical defense mechanism proposed by the precursors. But it was never successfully constructed. Oh, it was constructed all right, Nathan replied, pulling up another set of readings. It's just that nobody could figure out how to activate it. The power requirements alone would drain a star. Commander Rodriguez studied the data with intense focus. How did we miss something this big for so long? Because everyone was looking for it in normal space, Nathan explained, his excitement barely contained. The precursors built it in what we're calling null space, a dimension that exists parallel to our own. The quantum echoes we detected weren't just from the void, they were reflections of the gate structure. Ambassador Kthor's translator struggled to keep up with his rapid speech. The Nexus Gate was designed to create a barrier between our reality and the void's domain. But the energy requirements make activation impossible. Even if all spacefaring civilizations combined their power generation capabilities, we would fall short by several orders of magnitude. Nathan exchanged a knowing look with Elena before responding. That's if you try to power it conventionally. But what if we told you we found another way? The laboratory's main doors slid open, admitting Dr. Maya Desai, head of Earth's Experimental Energy Division. She carried herself with the confidence of someone who had just solved an impossible puzzle. We've been looking at the gate's power requirements all wrong, she announced, joining Nathan at the display. The precursors designed it to draw power from a single massive source, but what if we distributed the load? The alien representatives watched in growing astonishment as Maya brought up her theoretical models. The Nexilian delegate's color shifted rapidly through shades of disbelief. You propose to power the gate through multiple simultaneous quantum connections. The synchronization requirements alone would be impossible by conventional methods, Maya finished. But we've developed a new quantum entanglement technique we call neural linking. Instead of trying to synchronize machines, we use organic brains as quantum synchronization nodes. The laboratory erupted in overlapping objections from the alien delegates. Ambassador Kthor raised all 4 hands for silence. You propose to link organic minds to control the most powerful device ever theorized. The mental strain would be catastrophic. Not if we distribute it properly, Maya countered. We've already successfully tested the neural link system on a smaller scale. With enough volunteers and the right training, we can create a stable quantum synchronization network. Elena stepped forward, her voice cutting through the chaos. We're not asking for blind faith. We're asking for cooperation. Each of your species has unique mental capabilities that could strengthen the neural network. Together, we might have enough compatible minds to make this work. And if you fail? Val Shah demanded. A miscalculation could tear reality apart worse than the void itself. If we do nothing, the void will consume everything anyway, Nathan pointed out. At least this gives us a fighting chance. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Nexus Gate represented both humanity's greatest hope and, potentially, its most dangerous gamble. The alien representatives huddled together, their discussion a mixture of urgent whispers and electromagnetic pulses. Finally, Ambassador Kthor turned to address Elena. Your species continues to surprise us, Commander. What you propose is either brilliant innovation or magnificent madness. Perhaps both. But you are correct, we face extinction either way. The Valerian consciousness will support your effort. One by one, the other representatives added their support, though their reservations were clear in their body language. The Zarkaks were the last to agree, their crystalline forms vibrating with nervous energy. As the aliens filed out to contact their respective governments, Elena turned to Nathan and Maya. How long do you need to get the Neuralink system ready for full-scale testing? Maya consulted her data pad. 2 weeks to set up the initial network. Another 2 for basic training. But Commander, there's something we haven't told the delegates yet. Nathan nodded grimly. The Neuralink system needs a primary consciousness to serve as the main synchronization point. Someone to coordinate all the connected minds and direct the gate's power flow. The mental strain on that person would be unlike anything we've ever tested, Maya finished. We're not even sure someone could survive it. Elena's expression hardened with determination. Then we better find the right person. Because in 4 months, that consciousness will need to coordinate the minds of a dozen species to save the galaxy. She paused, looking at the holographic display of the Nexus Gate. And I think I know just the candidate. The quantum echo patterns shifted ominously in the background, reminder that the void drew closer with each passing moment. Humanity had found their weapon against the impossible. Now they just had to make it work, even if it meant rewriting the laws of physics, and consciousness itself, to do it. The Neuralink training facility hummed with an eerie quiet, broken only by the soft beeping of medical monitors and the occasional whispered conversation. Commander Elena Rodriguez lay in the central connection pod, her mind connected to the prototype neural network that would eventually power the Nexus Gate. Neural synchronization at 60% and holding, Dr. Maya Desai announced, her fingers dancing across the control panel. How are you feeling, Commander? Elena's voice came through the comm system, strained but steady. Like I'm trying to juggle 1,000 thoughts at once. The alien consciousness patterns are intense. Around her, representatives from 6 different species floated in their own specially designed interface chambers. The Valerian ambassador Kthor's 4 eyes were closed in deep concentration, while the crystalline form of Val Shah pulsed with synchronous energy patterns. Dr. Nathan Patel monitored the quantum stability readings with growing concern. The network is stable, but we're still not achieving the power levels we need. Even with all participants at maximum output, we're only reaching 15% of the gate's requirements. Elena's vital signs spiked suddenly, causing several alarms to blare. Wait. I'm seeing something. The patterns aren't just random thoughts. There's a structure to them. Like a language made of pure consciousness. Maya rushed to adjust the neural dampeners. Commander, your synaptic load is approaching dangerous levels. We should abort. No. Elena's command cut through the noise. I need to understand this. It's like the precursors left instructions, encoded in the quantum framework of the gate itself. The alien participants stirred in their chambers, their own consciousness patterns shifting to align with Elena's discovery. Ambassador Cthor's translator produced a burst of excited tones. She speaks truth. The patterns, they are familiar, like ancient songs our species has forgotten. Valshaw's crystalline form resonated at a new frequency. The mathematical sequences, they are not meant to be solved. They are meant to be harmonized. Nathan's eyes widened as he watched the power readings begin to climb. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Power output just jumped to 25%. Elena's voice had taken on an almost dreamy quality. We've been approaching this all wrong. The gate doesn't need raw power, it needs harmony. The precursors built it to respond to consciousness itself, but not individual minds, the combined symphony of multiple species thinking as one. Maya's hands flew over the controls, recalibrating the neural interface to accommodate this new understanding. The neural patterns are shifting. Instead of trying to force synchronization, they're naturally aligning themselves, like an orchestra, Elena finished. Each species contributes its own unique mental frequency, but together they create something greater. The gate isn't a machine. It's an instrument, and we're learning to play it. The power readings continued to climb as the participants adjusted to this new paradigm. 30%. 40%. The alien representatives began adding their own cultural knowledge to the mental symphony, ancient songs, mathematical theorems, philosophical concepts, all blending together in a complex tapestry of consciousness. But the strain was beginning to show. Blood trickled from Elena's nose, and her vital signs fluctuated dangerously. Commander, Maya warned, your brain can't take much more of this. Just a little longer, Elena gasped. I can see the full pattern now. The gate, it's not just a barrier. It's a bridge. The void isn't just a destroyer, it's the absence of consciousness itself. The precursors didn't build a weapon, they built a way to fill that void with thought, with life. The power readings spiked to 60% before the system overloaded. Emergency shutdowns activated, gently disconnecting all participants from the neural network. Medical teams rushed in as Elena and the alien representatives were brought out of their interface chambers. Hours later, in the facility's recovery ward, the participants gathered to discuss what they had discovered. Elena sat up in her bed, still pale but her eyes bright with understanding. The precursors left us more than just technology, she explained to the assembled group. They left us a challenge. The gate can only be activated by species willing to transcend their individual consciousness and truly work together. Not through force or dominance, but through harmony. Ambassador Cthor nodded slowly. For millennia, our species have sought technological solutions to the void. None thought to look within our own consciousness for the answer. But the power requirements, Nathan interjected. Even with this new understanding, we only reached 60% of what's needed. Elena smiled. Because we only had 6 species participating. Imagine what we could achieve with all spacefaring civilizations contributing to the symphony. Maya studied the test results on her tablet. The neural load would still be immense. Whoever serves as the primary consciousness would need to coordinate the mental patterns of potentially hundreds of species. Then we better start practicing, Elena said firmly. Because we have 3 months until the void arrives, and we need to turn a galaxy of disparate minds into the greatest orchestra reality has ever seen. As the others left to begin preparations for larger-scale tests, Valshaw lingered behind. Her crystalline form shimmered with what Elena had learned to recognize as uncertainty. Commander, there is something we have not considered. If consciousness itself is the key, what consciousness lurks within the void? And what will happen when our symphony meets its silence? Elena's expression grew serious. That, mathematical overseer, is the question that keeps me awake at night. But I'd rather face that unknown together than wait for the silence to consume us all. The true test was still to come. They had discovered the key to activating the gate, but the cost of using it might be higher than anyone had imagined. As Elena drifted off to sleep that night, her dreams were filled with the echoes of a cosmic symphony, and the looming shadow of the void that sought to silence it forever. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so crowded. Representatives from over 300 spacefaring civilizations packed the massive amphitheater, their varied forms creating a living tapestry of evolutionary diversity. Commander Elena Rodriguez stood at the central podium, her dress uniform pristine despite her exhaustion. "The void will reach the outer sectors in 6 weeks," she announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "Our latest quantum echo mappings show it's accelerating. We don't have the luxury of debate anymore." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of protests and questions. A massive chronaxian, their metallic scales gleaming under the chamber's lights, rose to speak. "You ask us to link our consciousness to an untested system? To risk the minds of our people on a human theory? We've tested it," Elena countered, nodding to Dr. Maya Desai, who activated a holographic display. 37 successful trials with increasing numbers of participants. The neural network can handle the load. We just need enough minds to reach full power. The display showed footage from their latest test, 100 beings of different species, their minds linked in harmony, producing power readings that made the ancient gate structure resonate across dimensions. But it also showed the cost, participants emerging exhausted, some with neural bleeding, all forever changed by the experience. High Elder VX Tria of the Quantum Collective, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, moved forward. "Your data is impressive, Commander, but you omit crucial details. The neural damage to participants increases exponentially with each test. And you still haven't revealed who will serve as the primary consciousness." Elena straightened her shoulders. "I will." The chamber fell silent. Even those species that had supported the human plan seemed shocked. Ambassador Kthor stepped forward, his normally melodic voice harsh with concern. "Commander, the calculations are clear. Serving as primary consciousness with this many participants, it would be a death sentence." "Probably," Elena agreed, her calm admission sending ripples through the assembly. "But we've run the simulations. No AI can handle the complexity of organic consciousness patterns. It has to be a living mind, and it has to be someone who's been part of the development process from the beginning." Dr. Nathan Patel, who had been quietly monitoring the quantum readings, spoke up. "There's something else you should all know. The void, it's not just approaching randomly. It's reacting to our tests. It knows we found the gate, and it's coming for us specifically." New holographic displays appeared, showing the altered trajectory of the void. Where before it had moved in a relatively straight line, now it curved sharply toward the heart of populated space. Toward Earth. "The void isn't just a natural phenomenon," Maya added. "It's conscious, in its own way. And it recognizes a threat when it sees one." The Chronaxian representative's scales shifted color in agitation. "Then we are doomed. If the void accelerates beyond your predictions." "We adapt," Elena interrupted firmly. "That's what humanity does best, and it's what we're asking you all to do now. Yes, there are risks. Yes, some of us may not survive. But if we do nothing, everyone dies anyway." Ambassador Kthor moved to stand beside Elena, a powerful gesture of solidarity. "The Valerians will commit our full population of telepaths to the neural network. We've seen the truth of the commander's words in our shared consciousness." One by one, other species began to pledge their support. The Zarkax promised their crystalline matrices would serve as quantum stabilizers. The Nexilians offered their natural ability to process multiple consciousness streams. Even the Chronaxians, despite their earlier protests, committed their people's renowned mental endurance to the cause. But High Elder Vxtria wasn't finished. And what of the consciousness within the void? Commander, you've touched it through the neural link. Tell them what you saw. Elena closed her eyes briefly, remembering the glimpses she'd caught during their tests. The void isn't empty. It's filled with the echoes of every consciousness it's ever consumed. It's hungry. Not for energy or matter, but for thought itself. It seeks to absorb all conscious life into its own eternal, unchanging pattern. Then why fight? Someone called from the assembly. If it preserves consciousness in some form. Because that's not life, Elena cut in sharply. Life is change. Growth. Evolution. The void offers a kind of immortality, yes, but at the cost of everything that makes us truly alive. The precursors understood this. That's why they built the gate, not to destroy the void, but to show it another way. Maya stepped forward, adding her own insight. The neural network doesn't just power the gate. When fully activated, it will create a new kind of consciousness, one that preserves individuality while achieving perfect harmony. We believe the precursors meant it as a gift not just to us, but to the void itself. The chamber buzzed with discussion as species grappled with these implications. They had come expecting to debate a weapon, only to find themselves considering an act of creation instead. Finally, High Elder Vxtria spoke again. The Quantum Collective will join your effort, Commander. Not because we believe it will succeed, but because you have shown us something we had forgotten, that the greatest advances come not from conquering the impossible, but from transforming it into something new. As the chamber began to empty, species breaking into groups to coordinate their preparations, Elena felt the weight of time pressing down on them. They had 4 weeks to prepare the largest unified consciousness in known history, and somehow use it to transform an entity that had consumed civilizations since the dawn of time. Nathan caught her eye across the chamber and nodded slightly. They both knew that even with all this support, success would require something more, something that only humanity's unique combination of determination, innovation, and willingness to break every rule in the book could provide. The real question was whether Elena's mind would survive long enough to complete the transformation they all sought. The Nexus Gate's control chamber thrummed with energy as the final preparations were made. 342 species, represented by their strongest minds, lay in neural interface pods that spiraled outward from the central platform where Commander Elena Rodriguez waited for the signal to begin. Dr. Maya Desai's voice was steady despite the tension. Quantum harmonics are aligned. Neural dampeners at maximum capacity. Commander, it's time. Elena took one last look at the faces of her closest allies in this impossible venture. Nathan's worried expression, Maya's determined focus, Cthor's 4 eyes gleaming with a mix of hope and fear, Valshaw's crystalline form pulsing with calculated precision. They had come so far together, and now everything rested on what would happen in the next few hours. The void has entered the outer rim, Nathan reported, his eyes fixed on the quantum echo displays. We're detecting something new. It's moving faster than ever before. It knows what we're attempting, Elena said, settling into the primary consciousness pod. It's making its final push. She closed her eyes as the neural interface activated. Begin synchronization sequence. The chamber filled with a low hum as thousands of minds began to connect through the neural network. Elena felt them all, first as whispers, then as streams of thought, finally as a roaring symphony of consciousness that threatened to overwhelm her entirely. Neural load at 70%, Maya called out, her voice seeming to come from very far away. Commander, your vital signs are already critical. Elena barely heard her. The network was showing her things beyond normal perception. She could see the void now, not just through quantum echoes but directly, across the dimensional barrier. It was vast, ancient, and impossibly lonely. Power output at 40% and climbing, Nathan reported. The gate is responding. Through the shared consciousness of hundreds of species, Elena began to understand the true nature of their enemy. The void wasn't evil, it was wounded. An entity that had existed since the dawn of consciousness itself, unable to change or grow, consuming other minds in a desperate attempt to feel something new. 60% power. But the void is accelerating, impact in 15 minutes. Elena pushed deeper into the neural link, letting the combined knowledge and experience of thousands of years of evolution flow through her mind. The precursor's final message became clear: the gate wasn't meant to destroy the void, but to heal it. Blood trickled from her ears as she forced her consciousness to expand further. All participants, she managed to gasp, don't fight the harmony. Let it flow naturally. Think of the first time your species looked up at the stars and dreamed. The power readings surged as minds across the galaxy shared their most profound moments of wonder and discovery. The Valerians remembered their first steps into space. The Zarkaks shared the beauty of their crystalline mathematics. The Chronaxians contributed their ancient songs of creation. 80%. But Commander, your neural patterns are breaking down. Elena could feel her mind beginning to fragment under the strain, but she pushed on. Through the network, she reached out directly to the void. We see you, she projected. We understand your pain. The void's response hit the network like a tidal wave of darkness. Ancient beyond measure, it showed them civilizations long dead, knowledge lost to time, an existence of eternal, unchanging solitude. 90%. The void will reach us in 5 minutes. Elena's consciousness expanded to its breaking point as she gathered the combined empathy, creativity, and determination of hundreds of species. You don't have to be alone anymore, she told the void. You don't have to be unchanging. Let us show you another way. Through the neural network, she began to share not just memories or knowledge, but the very essence of what made life worth living, the joy of discovery, the pain of loss, the wonder of growth and change. She showed the void what it meant to evolve, to learn, to become more than what you were. Power at 95%. Commander, your brain activity is becoming chaotic. Elena felt her individual consciousness beginning to dissolve under the strain, but she held on to one final thought. With the last of her strength, she reached out to the void with an offer: join us. Not to consume, but to share. Not to freeze consciousness in eternal stasis, but to dance with us in endless evolution. The void hesitated. For the first time in billions of years, it experienced something new: doubt. Power at 98%. Impact in 60 seconds. In that moment of hesitation, Elena struck. Not with weapons or barriers, but with the combined creative force of hundreds of species imaging new possibilities. The gate activated not as a shield, but as a bridge between states of being. The void touched the bridge of consciousness, and changed. Light exploded across dimensional barriers as the gate reached full power. The void's darkness met the combined light of countless minds, and in their meeting, both were transformed. When the light faded, Elena's physical form lay still in the primary consciousness pod. But across the galaxy, every being connected to the network felt her consciousness dispersed among them, a living pattern in the new symphony of existence. The void remained, but it was no longer empty. It had become a place where consciousness could flow freely between all living things, a library of experiences that could be shared but never consumed. The hunger that had driven it for eons had been transformed into a desire to create rather than absorb. Months later, Ambassador Kthor stood before the Galactic Council, reading from a prepared statement. The being we once knew as Commander Elena Rodriguez exists now in a form we can barely comprehend. Her consciousness touches all who participate in the great symphony she helped create. The humans have a term for what she became: a catalyst, a force that enables change without being consumed by it. And the void? Asked High Elder Vxtria. No longer void at all, Kthor replied. Humanity's greatest gift was not the technology to fight it, but the imagination to transform it. They showed us all that the impossible is not a wall, but a door waiting to be opened. Across the galaxy, species that had once doubted humanity's readiness now studied their methods and philosophy. They had learned that sometimes the greatest innovations come not from following the rules of reality, but from having the courage to show reality new rules. And in the space between thoughts, in the quantum harmony of shared consciousness, Elena's pattern danced on, teaching the entity that had once been the void how to play in the endless symphony of existence.